All right. Hello, my friends. Today we have a very special guest on the podcast sharing his story all about the male side of infertility. I'm so excited
Mm.
to have Jon Summers on the podcast talking all about what it's like being the infertility man. So, hi, Jon. How are you doing today? I should say good morning,
Yes,
Jon, because
yes, yes.
it's morning for you.
It is, it is. There's a lot of water between the pair of us. But yes, thank you for having me, Nora. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for being here and being so brave and courageous and vulnerable and sharing your story because you have a pretty big story, and I'm really excited to dive into it today as
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people listening, and most people hear the struggles of female side of infertility and not so much the male side.
Mm.
So I think it is so
Yeah.
incredible what you're doing to bring this to light. And so let's just kind of get right into who you are and how you got here and why I'm interviewing you on the podcast
Mm.
today. So tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about who you are.
I'm guessing you want the shortened version, the abridged version. Um,
However long you want to be.
yeah, 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 yeah. My story starts a while before I actually met Laura. Like I was diagnosed with cancer, testicular cancer, in 2011. Knowing what I know now, there's probably a few things through my life that probably would have pointed towards a medical, I don't know, occurrence like that. But again, hindsight is a wonderful thing. Anyway,
Mhm.
diagnosed with testicular cancer. Around that stage, that it was an aggressive type of cancer. So basically, within a week, I've been diagnosed, assessed, and treated. Um, and they removed one of my testes. And basically, from that point on, at that time, I wasn't thinking about kids. No, I was dealing with the cancer, and it was around that stage I made a lot of lifestyle changes, choices, and I think around that time, because I kids weren't on my horizon, I kind of made this nice little story up.
Mhm.
And the story was, I can't have kids. And the reason why I made that up is it allowed me to move forward. It allowed me to push away the pain of that idea. Um,
Mhm.
I guess a lot of blokes can attest to this. It's better off just out of sight, out of mind. And by making that story up, I was able to do that. And if you were to fast forward, I made some huge changes from that time, like dietary changes, lifestyle changes. I wasn't treating myself very well around that time as well. So to say that cancer was a blessing for me,
Mhm.
it's an interesting reframe. But I guess for me, if I was going on my tact anyway, it wouldn't have been pretty.
Mhm.
And fast forward, I wasn't that much fast forwarding, I can tell you. I was all cleared about 2016, and I met Laura in 2017. And if there was anything that ever turned me on my head through my life, it was meeting Laura. She On our first date we talked about children, and she mentioned her big family and asked whether I wanted kids. I said I love kids, and along with that story that I'd made up that I can't have kids, I decided that I'll just take everyone else's and give them back at the end of the day.
Mhm.
And I told her that I would love kids. I can't have them.
Mhm.
And she sort of looked at me. I can still remember her face because it was just this look of confusion. She said, "Oh, is that really true?" And I tell you, that little question, those
Mhm.
few little words, it basically sent me inward. And I started to reflect on all the instances since my diagnosis and the doctors I spoke to. And I'd even made up the story that the doctor had told me I couldn't have kids.
Mhm.
But then I started to go, maybe, just maybe, which is probably the truth. He said you're going to have to look at other ways to have kids,
Mhm.
and I'm like, wow. All right. So without Laura knowing what was going on, I found a doctor and started to look into my own fertility. And the semen analysis came back, and just big donuts. They were They were 0. And I tell you, my next procedure was when I actually told Laura what I'd been up to. And we're only talking a couple of months, a few months into our
Into
courtship,
dating.
maybe.
Yeah.
If you wanted to, we were a little older and we kind of knew what we wanted, I guess. And anyway, I was going for this procedure. This doctor recommended that I do this fine needle aspiration. And this involves putting in a needle into my one remaining testy, which probably you think now it was probably broken anyway because it's been trying to pick up the slack for the other one, which wasn't there now. So anyway, you put this needle in and they draw back on the syringe. It's what they call a blind procedure, which means you've got no visuals of where you're actually going. You're just putting the needle in and hoping that it actually goes through the tubules or somewhere where there's sperm being made. He went in once. They took the serum off to the microscope and they look at it and they go, "Oh, there's nothing there." All right. They do it again. Same result. Then he asked if we wanted to do it one more time. And I still remember the doctor, and I said, "Yeah, well, while in Rome, we might as well just go for it."
Is this
And he
all on the
shook his
same? Is this all on the
this
same day? Is this the
in
same
the same
procedure?
day. These
Okay.
procedure, yeah.
Okay.
And the doctor looks at me and just goes, "Whoa, I couldn't do this." And
Yeah.
this is not something you really want to hear from your doctor while he's sticking
Yeah.
a needle into your private bits. But with that third pass, they found one sperm.
Wow.
Now, they found one sperm. And for me, I guess that was like striking gold.
Yeah.
I've been digging somewhere in the bush and looking for gold, and then you just find this one little nugget. And I tell you, for Laura and I, finding that one sperm, but actually, I guess a really crass analogy would be it kept us in the game. It kept us hopeful that there was still a chance for us both to produce an offspring. No, we could never have even created or imagined how our story was going to play out or is playing out. But from that procedure, I think we learned a lot, because if we had have actually proceeded with that doctor and my procedure, which was going to be a microtesy, so because of my cancer and my ability to make sperm was just flawed, we missed things like biopsies. We missed invasive procedures. We basically skipped forward to the full Monty, which was the microtesy procedure, which has been around sort of just 5 years ish. And by knowing that we were going to that part of our journey, the doctor could have at that stage just wiped out all our chances, because what we found out straight away was that Laura didn't respond well to the medications.
Can I pause for 1 second just to summarize everything so far? So this is a few months into you and Laura dating. You're going to do this procedure. You do this procedure, you do it on the third time, they retrieve, you get one sperm. One sperm. So now all of a sudden, okay, there is hope.
There is hope, yes.
Okay. Then you mentioned microtesy. Can you just explain for the audience what that is?
100%. 100%. You sort of get stuck you sort of get into the story, and
that's
a long story. Like... And I'm really glad you pull out the details. So please do that. Please do that. The microtesy procedure, it is under microscope. It's actually quite a lengthy procedure, maybe 4 or 5 hours at times. And what you'll have is some embryologists in the lab, in the theatre with yourself, with the surgeon, and the surgeon is actually going in under microscope into your testy under microscope. So they cut you open, and they're looking for, under microscope, they're looking for tubules in your testes which are actually producing sperm still.
Oh, okay. So
they're
this was
literally
after?
going foraging. This is after. This is so again, thank you for pulling me up. We had the blind procedure, which was the fine needle aspiration.
Yes.
Now, what we realized is the microtesi procedure is normally a once off.
Okay.
Okay, they go in, they go foraging, which obviously does an amount of trauma to the
Correct.
testing because they're looking for this sperm. And what we were told, because by firing some of our doctors, we
Hmm.
ended up with our specialists that we had, and they're just fabulous.
Hmm.
And Laura's reproductive specialist mentioned, and my doctor as well, my urologist, they mentioned that 20-ish eggs is what we sort of need for to possibly get a couple of few embryos
Hmm.
if we found sperm
From the microtesi procedure.
from the microtesi procedure.
Okay. Okay.
So then our plan became, okay, Laura has to do egg retrievals, and in our
Yes.
naive space, just like our book, we thought we were going to do the IVF and get pregnant first month and have a baby. Easy. That's how IVF works. It definitely was not that for us.
Mhm.
Because Laura didn't respond well to the medications,
Got it.
the
So she had to
stimulating
take some
medication.
time. Exactly. She had to
Yeah,
take some time to
yeah,
stimulate her ovaries, do
yeah,
the egg retrieval.
yes,
So from the
yes.
aspiration procedure up until the microtesi and Laura's experience with egg retrieval, what was the timeline in between that?
So that was about a year
A year.
because
Okay. I was like, is
because
it two
because
months or okay.
Laura was like I said before, she didn't respond well to the medication, so we were
Right.
producing one egg, two eggs,
Got it. Every
three eggs.
cycle, every time
Yeah,
she was
every
going
cycle.
in.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So she was going back to back, and it literally took 9 cycles, and we ended up with
Wow.
31 eggs.
Wow.
And I literally got the last, and then obviously our buddy COVID was about to
Right.
was
My
hitting,
goodness.
and I literally, because I wasn't due for my procedure for another few months, but we talked about it, Laura and I, and we said, look, we really need to move forward. We really need to know if I have sperm.
Right.
In the background, I'd started creating this story. Well, not creating, or just becoming comfortable with the idea that I may have to look at donor as
Hmm.
well, which is a completely different mindset, and we can talk about
Absolutely.
that later. But I'd sort of just thrown the pebble in the pond, and it was just in the background ruminating. So I called my urologist, and I said, "Hey, I'm ready to go. I can go anytime if you get a cancellation." I literally got the last spot
Right before COVID.
before COVID, before they
Oh my goodness.
shut the surgeries down over
Yes.
here. And so you can imagine the anxiety, the stress. It was overwhelming. I was going to know one way or
Hmm.
the other
Right.
whether I could potentially have. There's so many steps after, but whether I was producing sperm and waking up from that procedure after the anesthetics and the medications, you've got this rude little picture,
Hmm.
and it had this little head with a little smiley face and this little tail, and it just says, it's just what he does, and it says, we found some.
Oh my
And
goodness. That's what you woke up to?
that's what I woke up.
Wow.
So it still gets me. Um, and we were all set to, I guess I wasn't ready for what was about to follow. It was a milestone to find sperm. So our next part of the challenge was we've got to find out whether Laura's eggs and my sperm actually
Are
talk.
compatible. Yeah.
Yeah. So then that was the next part. But while we were in the hospital, the doc came and seen me to the review before I left. And we were basically all set. The idea was put our sperm and eggs together. We would, if we make any embryos, we were going to transfer. That was
Hmm.
that was the process. That was what you do.
Yeah.
So he comes in, and I still remember Laura's face because I can just remember the color draining from her face when he mentioned it. The doctor comes in and goes, "John, we found some sperm. They were moving. There was a few moving, and they looked good, but we found the 31." And then I closed you up, and I'm sort of like, "What? What?" And he said, "I found a spot in your testy which gave us enough sperm for the eggs you had.
Okay.
And then I closed you up because you can do this again." And I'm like,
Oh my god.
"What?" And that was the point that Laura realized that she had to do more
More.
retrievals to get more
Oh
eggs. You
my
can just
goodness.
literally see the blood drain from her face.
Right.
And I guess this is what infertility is like. Like, you are literally making decisions on the fly,
Mm-hmm.
like some serious decisions, life-changing decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why we decided to make that microtesi, the second one, in 6 months' time, and allow Laura to do egg retrievals, was because my testosterone was in my boots. My body, my estrogen, my hormones were just completely out of
Flatline.
kilter.
Right.
Yeah, and that was one of the main reasons why we decided, right, if we set 6 months for the next microtesi, that is literally going to be it. Laura
Mm-hmm.
can do retrievals up until the fifth month, and then
Mm-hmm.
on the 6th month they would alter
Mm-hmm.
her cycle, which is just what we can do these days. They would alter her cycle to
Mm-hmm.
match up with my surgery day.
Wow.
So then, this is all probably infertility speak. We would end up with fresh eggs,
Mm-hmm.
fresh sperm,
Mm-hmm.
and fresh sperm and frozen eggs
Okay. Right. From the previous
from the
retrievals.
previous retrievals. And it did make a massive difference to the embryos created, and Adeline is an example of one of those. She's actually going to be, if we're ever blessed with another child, she's actually going to be the oldest living human,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but she's the youngest embryo. She's actually the youngest embryo.
Yeah. Okay. So for the listeners, the great news to all of everything that you have just shared is that you both have a beautiful daughter.
That's right. That's right.
And
That's
how
right.
old is she today?
She is now 16 months. 16 months
She's
of
16
age. Yeah.
months. And so
Yeah.
so you said those 6 months. So that was 6 months into COVID that this happened. Like how, because you said you had the first
We
micro teasy right before
Yeah, the
COVID
micro
happened.
tizzy. Yeah, that would have been March. Geez, when was that? 2019? Is that
Yeah,
COVID?
March 2019. March
Yeah, I'm pretty
2019.
sure it was 2019,
No,
and
March
then
2020.
was
Oh
it
my
20?
gosh, now I
Was
can't
it
even get
20?
my years
Yeah,
right. No, it's 2020.
it was 2020. All right. So
Both between the
so we
two of
would have
us.
been we were about a few years in, and then yes, we ended up 6 months down the track, which was around September, which we had the second microtesting procedure.
Right.
And we did a fresh transfer.
And that was the
So
fresh transfer that took.
yeah, so
And
that took, which was literally against any of the statistics.
wow.
That really, and I guess for us, it led us down the path that we had the answer, and
Hmm.
we are attempting for another child, and we kind of felt we had the answer, but just a sneak peek, we definitely do not. And
Hmm.
it is just as rough
Wow.
as the first time. But obviously, there's so many different considerations now when you've got uh, a young one to take
Hmm.
care of.
The
Um,
bravery and the courage for the both of you is just out of this world. Like that is unbelievable. You both have such
mm,
resilience, stamina. I can only imagine your relationship must be like rock solid. Like, talk about emotional support
mm,
for each other, mental support. I mean, I work with clients who are, going through infertility, and it's really could be very traumatizing to the
Mm.
relationship, to each of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
couples individually. So can you speak to a little bit, again, whatever you're comfortable sharing? I don't need to pry too much,
yeah.
but I guess the
I
infertility.
think that ship has sailed, Nora.
Yeah.
We asked that question a while ago, and we seem to have blown apart any of the boundaries we actually set.
Right. Yeah. Well, when you're in this space, you just get right into it. Like when I
Yeah,
start working
that's
with
right.
clients, it's like cervical mucus, sperm, like
Yeah, lovely.
vagina. I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. I'm Nora. You just go right
Yeah,
into it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, geez, that is a minefield, because I guess when you think about um, your support team or your significant other, um, I guess blame, a lot of feelings come into it, and a lot of blame can be felt by either party.
Hmm.
Um, for Laura and I, obviously, the reason why we were in infertility was because of my medical history,
Hmm.
and I think I did all the usual things where I'd go, hey, you could probably find someone who can who can give you a
Hmm.
child naturally, and you don't need to go through what she's gone through. And she did, I guess, what a lot of women do, and just go, hey, don't be stupid. I'm here. I'm
Hmm.
here with you. I'm here for you. Um, I think there's still some guilt there, some blame towards myself.
Hmm.
Um, but I've worked hard on that, and we do proceed as a team.
Hmm.
Um, and we've had to create many different tools or strategies around that as well. And for me as a man, I think listening to Alison Armstrong, you potentially know Alison Armstrong. She's been studying men,
Hmm. Yeah.
and her big thing is that men treat women like hairless men, and women treat men like hairy women, and it literally doesn't work. And we
Hmm.
wonder why we have these challenges in communication in our relationship. And basically, if the relationship isn't right, to think that adding a baby to the equation,
Right.
that literally just blows my mind.
Right.
um so in saying that about how we communicate to each other, Laura and I, if I can use an example, Alison Armstrong, Alison Armstrong terms of phrase, transition time. So I noticed one day, one of these days, and Laura did it all the time. I would come home from work, and Laura works from home with the business, with her businesses, and I come home and I would just notice that she'd come up, she'd give me a kiss on the cheek, say, "Hey, hope your day was great," and then she'd just go back to work.
Hmm.
And one day I found myself thinking, oh, I could come home from work, and she did the same thing, gone for a shower, come out. And I've just noticed there was no, especially with my previous experience with partners, there was no, hey, what are you doing? What are we doing this? There was no, I guess you'd call it nagging or badgering, or how it made me feel. I said, I've noticed that you just give me this time. She goes, oh, yeah, yeah, it's called this transition time.
Right.
It gives you time, because men are single focused.
Hmm.
It gives you time to come in. You're actually able to take the workday out of your head and put it in a lockbox and put it aside. You do your shower, and it takes that amount of time that you come back and you go, now I'm ready for
Now I'm
you, Laura.
present. Now I can be
Now,
present and
now,
ready for
now
you.
I'm
I
ready
like
for you,
that.
Laura.
The
Yeah,
transition
yeah,
time, that is,
yeah.
it's.
And she was always certain about asking me, like, are you ready to? Because you can always say she's got a lot of words, by the way, and you were probably the same, Laura. But she speaks at about 150 words a
Oh,
minute,
yeah.
with gusts up to about 300, thousands of words. And if I'm not around through the day to actually just I guess, like, release the pressure, it can be a lot in a short period of time. So she goes, "Hey,
Right.
are you ready?" Type of thing. So these are little things. I'm like, yeah, all right, all right.
You're
You
like,
need
I'm
my
ready.
you
Give it
need
to
my
me.
presence. Let it let it go. So again, these are little strategies that we did. And around infertility, women can talk about infertility from twice a day, morning till night, and then night until morning, all day.
Hmm.
And I guess for me, and I guess I'm not alone in this, is I felt like I was getting badgered, and obviously Laura wanted an answer, and I'm like, man, I'm overwhelmed with this.
Yeah.
And another thing we created was for ourselves was a baby making meetup. So right, and that's what we called it. Call it what you want. It was
Hmm.
literally like a date night or something that we would actually just go, right, we put everything aside and we would just talk about infertility.
Hmm.
We created a shared notes platform so that if we did have questions outside of those times, we would just drop them in, and then we could actually
Come back
see
to them.
what was in the
Hmm.
folder, and we could actually, oh, that's interesting. All right, yeah, but you could actually think about it
You have time
prior
to
to that.
process and think.
That's
It's
right. That's
yeah.
right. That's right.
So
And
it's
we found them very productive.
mhm.
Very productive.
Well, at the end of
Yeah.
the day, like I'm sure you have more too, but I mean, from just the foundational standpoint of relationships, you guys are taking the time to set boundaries for each other
Yes. Yes.
and identify optimal communication strategies for both of you to that is going
Yeah.
to allow both of you
Our own ones. Our own
exactly.
ones. Not
Yeah.
what anyone else is doing.
No,
It's not
what's
like
working
it's
for the two of you.
that's
Yes.
right. That's right. That's right. That's right. And comparing us to someone else, that doesn't help us because
Correct.
I'm different to you and you're different to that. So and you go, oh, but what you can do is if you actually see, let's say couples or people on TV and you could just go, I really like that.
Hmm.
I really like the way they treated each other then. What did they do? What questions did they ask? And equally so, you can actually go to the other way and go, I
I
really did
don't
not
like.
like the
Yeah.
way that played out, or that
Hmm.
they treated each other, or that thing. So you sort of make up these. There's lessons either way, and you kind of make up these rules for yourself. You go, all right, I think I'm going to use that part. I'm not going to use that part. I really like that part, and I will never do
Hmm.
that. And it's just and like I said before, you're just constantly on your feet, on your toes, just making these little decisions. That's
Hmm.
going to make this challenge, which is infertility, and every day you get your ass kicked in one way or another.
Hmm.
And the reason why I say that is because you are aware of every step in the process,
Hmm.
no matter how uncertain it
Hmm.
is. And it is all uncertain. I tell you, even with the doctor's experience, they are literally still throwing stuff at a wall
And seeing what sticks.
and seeing what
Yeah.
sticks. And the reason why we I guess no, we can't you can't even say did so well. It's because we were all about the information we were collecting.
Hmm.
And that second time, that second microtesi, we actually had 9 cycles and my first procedure of
Hmm.
data. So
Hmm.
we were able to for the next 6 cycles, because it took
Hmm.
us less to get more eggs, we were able to go, right, what was the best of the worst?
Hmm.
What was the worst of the best? And we talked with our doctor to actually piece together a protocol to help Laura, to stimulate Laura, just
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
um, her own ability to make eggs, and that helped us get better results, even if it was as uncertain as it was. Um,
Hmm.
Data is queen, king. It's just the ultimate. And if you can actually take note of where you were, what you were doing, what was happening, how you were eating, how was sleeping, what was going on with work, and what was these are all the considerations. If you can actually piece this together
Hmm. You've
to
got
actually help you
roadmap.
take the next step, that's exactly right. The roadmap is
Mm.
roadmap, and I tell you, you take so many wrong turns,
Hmm.
and wrong is the incorrect term because basically and this is through Wayne Dyer, we've sort of learned that if you don't
Yes,
make it
I
bad
love
or
Wayne
good,
Dyer.
it
Mhm.
is literally a result.
I think maybe another word to use would be a pivot. You've taken
Yes,
it's instead of a wrong
pivots a
turn,
great word.
you just pivot and you keep
Great word.
pivoting and pivoting and
Great word.
pivoting until you kind of come a little bit closer to that apex, maybe.
Yes, yes, yes. And I think I went out for a ride yesterday, and I had a good think, and a question popped into my head. It's just like, what keeps us going? Like literally, hope is one thing, but because you literally don't know what the next step is going to be until you know what the next step is going to be. It's like, what keeps
Mhm.
us going? And I guess when you receive challenging information or good, yeah, when you receive information, if you're actually in the moment, it makes it really hard to actually see where you're going. So I think what I realized is Laura and I have got really specific and really good at the vision
Mhm.
of the family or the house that we want, or the 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And if you're able to just catch a glimpse of that, it actually pulls your head up from that moment
Mm.
of sadness, depression, loneliness, whatever you want to call it. If you can just catch that glimmer, it might actually go, oh, you know what? It allows you to pop your head up and
Mhm.
just look at that and go, oh,
It's almost like
yes,
to see, it's like that you pop your
yes,
head up and you see the light.
above the
It's like the
horizon.
light.
That's right. That's
Yes.
right. That's right. That's right. Like the sunrise, when the sunrise just peeks over the top, you go, "Oh, that is just beautiful." And you go, "Oh, well, that might just help you just dust yourself off, pick yourself up
Mhm.
off your knees, pick your partner up, pick your support crew up, and then take that next step."
I can imagine, like, I'm just getting goosebumps listen like having this conversation with you, and I can just imagine how many people you are inspiring who are listening to this right now. And I mean, this is a recording that is going to be available. So even just in times and months and years to come, all of this is just so
Oh,
inspiring,
well,
Jon.
thank you very much, Maura. Thank you. Thank you.
Hmm.
Um, I think what we found when we first entered into the infertility world, it is innately negative.
Yes.
Um, and it is hard to see the wood for the trees sometimes.
Hmm.
And if there's any charge, you just use us, step on our backs,
Yeah.
um, and if we can just help you just see that little sliver of light as the sun comes up, then that's been our goal the whole time. It's just to provide a resource that's empowering rather than disempowering.
So you are known as, I guess you've coined yourself or you've termed yourself the infertility man
As
or the
unflattering
infertile
as that
man.
is, infertility, man.
I love it. I love it. And for those who are listening and have not yet seen his website, you've also got this great, like, cartoon animated character that you've kind of created for yourself and for Laura.
Yeah,
And well, we'll get into. I want to talk
yeah.
about. You've got a book coming out. There's so many great ways that you've kind of taken the journey, the challenging and like the struggling journey that you've been going through, and you've flipped it on its head and made it into something that is going to inspire and help, and I'm sure already is helping, inspiring so many people. So there's always the pot. It's so beautiful when you can bring a positive out of such a challenging
Hmm.
situation. So
Hmm.
I want to talk about your infertility support group because
Yes,
as we chatted about before, and you can speak to this probably more than I can, but there's not many male
no,
support
no,
groups out there, if any at all. So
yeah,
what can you share what that looks like for you, and what your group, what does that involve when
yeah,
you
yeah,
join a support
yeah,
group like this?
yeah, yeah. I think it comes down to that first step that a lot of men have to take, and that's accepting that you don't have to do it alone, and that there is support out there.
Hmm.
And this group, albeit it's men around the world, and what I'm finding now is every day I get a request to join
Hmm.
the group,
Hmm.
and it still doesn't help the fact that men are crap at communicating.
Well, I'm
But
glad
the
you
funny,
said that and not me.
the funny thing is that these guys in this group, they seem to take solace from being a part of a team,
Mhm.
a community. And I will say, I have seen how a women's support group works. There is a lot of chat. That thread just lights up and it is constant. This is definitely not the case with the men's group. But what I will say is the challenging part for me is actually placing something in there which actually strikes a chord.
Mhm.
What men do is we actually wait until that time when we've actually, the rubber band is at its full stretch.
Mhm.
And that's when we go, oh, geez, I might need a little bit of help because I don't think I can actually do this myself.
Mhm.
And people will actually drop in, and it's challenging to get them sharing,
Mhm.
but equally as beautiful when you actually see the support coming from people they don't even know. Like we are talking every corner of the earth,
Mhm.
and someone will just get to that point where they feel like they have to unload that
Mhm.
burden and share. And the majority of the time, the question is, has anyone else felt
Going
like
to.
this?
Yes. Yes.
And then let's say 10, 12, 20, whatever. They go, yeah, mate, this is tough.
Mhm.
Or we did this, we used this. Yeah, it's a really awesome sight to see.
Mhm.
And I would like to say, like when we started, it wasn't very often, but it is actually happening more and more often. And I think these men in the group, and some of them have had results, both positive and negative, and they're still in the group,
Mhm.
but they're still
They want to support.
offering a supportive
Yes.
space and a safe space. We do get a lot of women, and I guess it's through frustration because men actually have to get to the point themselves
Mhm. Yes.
to ask for support. And I will say, ladies, it doesn't help you telling him that he needs
That he
support.
needs support.
It's like the two magnets. Like you put the same hole
Yes. Like,
together, and it will resist even more.
correct. Right.
So
Yes.
so I am going to let you in on a little sneaky little tack. Maybe put some of my videos or our videos on and just have that voice in the background and go, oh, I'm listening to this, and unbeknownst to them, they go, oh, who's this bloke that you're listening to?
Yep.
Yeah, just
There's.
and then that is a seed getting planted.
Mhm.
And potentially, you go, there's a flyer here for the men's infertility group on Facebook. Oh, imagine that. And then he goes off and looks at that. And I tell you, it won't be in your time frame,
Mhm.
but it will get to the point where we'll go, you know what, I think I might just look into this, but I'm not going to tell her because I
Mhm.
wouldn't want her to know that. And then he ends up in the group, and then he maybe scrolls through the thread and he goes, huh, that's me.
Right.
Huh, that's me.
Mhm.
And then potentially watches a video. And I'm
Mhm.
not just talking about us. You go to anyone's video. There's a million. I hate to say it. There's a million people like us that are having
Right.
challenges. Millions, hundreds of millions, whatever you want to say. Um, and we're just trying to make that conversation normal.
Mhm.
One in
Mhm.
1 in 8. I think it might even be 1 in 6 now. So you go to a party. There's
Mhm.
50 people there. There's going to be 5 people in that room
That are struggling. Mhm.
that are struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot more now, like I
Yeah.
actually, a lot more now for the male factor side.
Yes.
I'm not sure if
Yes.
you're familiar with the book Countdown, but maybe you are. Have you heard of the book
We have
Countdown
seen we have
by
looked at it.
Shanna
Yes.
Swan? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's there's just
Yes.
52% decline of sperm concentration since a
Yeah.
decline in men since the 1970s. And that's just concentration, which we know is only
Yes.
one parameter of
Yes.
what is the
Yes.
morphology, the motility, all of that
Yep.
stuff. So
Yeah.
A big part of it, a big part of the increasing infertility rates is not just from female; it's
That's
from the
right.
male
That's right.
factor side.
That's
So
right. That's
I,
right.
yeah, and one thing I want to just mention as you were talking about, I think just some strategies or different ways
Yeah.
to maybe get your partner, the male partners, to, I think what
Engage.
engage is like, I think women are very strategic in figuring out how to do what they need to do in the relationship to get their partner to figure something out, but think that it was their choice in
Yes.
doing it, even
Yes.
though
Yes.
they've been doing all these little
Yes.
sneaky things in the background.
Yes. 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 Whacking a guy straight in the face is literally only going to get you someone who's going to brace up, and
Yes.
it really removes the ability to take in any information. No matter how
Hmm.
much time you whack him in the face, he's not going to get it.
Hmm.
He's not going to get it. You need to think about the strategy that you use, and unbeknownst to him, it just needs to sort of be their decision.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I like the quote,
The
I've heard this somewhere, is like the more you resist, the more it persists. So the
yes,
more
yes,
resistance, the more that
yeah, yeah,
behavior is going to
yeah,
keep
yeah,
persisting. So
yeah. And you can't start a fire without
with
and fuel. Yeah.
ammunition
So
and fuel, you just, yeah, no, you
yeah,
broke out for
if,
a second. So I didn't hear the ammunition part. I
yeah,
just saw your mouth move. Yeah.
ignition. Yeah. So if you remove that part,
Yes.
that fire can't start.
Right.
So that fight won't
Yes.
happen,
Right.
and you're able to actually decompress the other person because they go, "Oh, well, geez, we would normally fight about this, but we're not. This is
Hmm.
confusing. What do we do? What are we doing?" And then maybe you set up a baby making meetup, and you go, "Hey, I don't think we can talk about this now, but how does Tuesday at 8 o'clock over a glass of wine, and we can work out what our next steps are."
Mm.
Um, and I mentioned the mindsets earlier on. Earlier on, we found, and it's in our book, that we found there's about 7 mindsets of infertility.
Hmm.
The first being you can conceive naturally,
Hmm.
and the last is like surrogacy or remaining childless.
Hmm.
And throughout there's IVF, like looking at infertility treatment, and then there's adoption and fostering and things like that. And if you aren't in the same mindset,
Hmm.
you'll be able to find why you are actually having disagreements,
Mm.
because your outcomes are different,
Right.
and how you're looking at. And a lot of men attach masculinity to virility. So
Hmm.
if you actually remove that, and they're still thinking that they can get you pregnant, I could have kept doing this until I was blue in the face. If I had stayed in mindset one, that I could
Hmm.
get Laura pregnant, I would have had to question what she was doing on Friday and Saturday nights, because
Right.
there was no sperm coming out. There was no
Right.
sperm coming out of me.
Right.
So
I
I
like
had
that.
I had to progress to mindset two,
Hmm.
which is considering assistance in the
Right.
process.
Right.
And it wasn't until, and we were sort of thrust into that mindset, because we were in that mindset, we were able to actually make some big decisions really quickly.
Hmm.
And if you think about your relationship, if the guy or the woman's still thinking they can do it naturally, and you've already moved on to the need for assistance,
Hmm.
you actually
The
can't
communication.
connect.
Yeah. The
You
energy.
can't. You
The
can't.
energy is
Yeah,
broken.
the energy is not there. So when the guy goes, "All right, I need some help," and you're like, "Oh, we've moved in, and we can actually do this together."
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, it was a big one. It was a big one for us, because any of the minor little disagreements we had, we went, "Oh,
We're not
we
on the
were
same
actually
page.
thinking, we were actually
Yeah.
thinking we were doing this, but you thought we were doing this, but I thought you thought that we were doing this," and you know what I mean?
And it just
It's just,
becomes a big mind
oh
and then
man,
F word.
it,
Yes. It's a
it
big,
just becomes a
yeah,
big mess.
it becomes a big mess. Yes,
It becomes a
absolutely.
big mess. So when you're able to connect in that decision, then you're able to make some of the massive choices that need to be made, and
Hmm.
you're able to actually support each other better.
Hmm.
You're able to actually feel where each other is, and you're more open as well to the possibilities
Mm-hmm.
that are thrust upon you.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're in different mindsets, a lot of the time it's like wearing blinkers.
Mm-hmm.
It's like having blinkers on. You can't see
What did you call
what's
it?
in
What did
front.
you call it? Have what?
Blinkers. So covering your
Blinkers?
eyes.
Oh, we don't. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
use. We
So
don't
it's the
use that
things you
term
put on
here.
horses. You remember you put them on horses to keep their vision. They
Oh,
basically
okay.
can
I
only
see
see
on the sides.
so
Yes.
sides, yes. And if you
Huh.
actually remove those blinkers,
Mm. Then
you
you're.
can see the whole chessboard.
I thought you were, because I remember when I went to Australia, there were so many terms when they were like thongs, and I was like, thongs are underwear. Why is everybody talking about
Yeah.
thongs underwear? And I know those were
Everyone's wearing
sandals.
thongs.
And I remember your sunglasses were sunnies. And so I'm thinking,
Yeah, yeah,
blinkers? Is that another term that I'm
yeah.
just not
No,
sure of? Okay.
no. We kind of it's restricting your sight. And if you
Got
want
it.
another analogy, is you've got to if you put some glasses on with a certain type of frame which blocks out
Got it.
your ability to see. And if you think of mindsets as that, if you're in mindset one, you put your glasses on, and mindset two is able to actually see the possibilities of infertility treatment, but you've still got mindset one on, you actually
Right.
don't see those possibilities. And you're
Hmm.
wondering, what the heck are they talking about? I'm going to have a baby naturally, but
Right.
they're talking about this. And if I use an example for us, someone offered us eggs,
Mm.
but they didn't take time to find out that it's actually a sperm problem.
Interesting.
Yeah, someone offered us eggs, and someone said to us, "Well, why don't you just foster or adopt?" And we're like, "Whoa,
Well, yeah.
we are literally starting here. We've literally moved into mindset two. We cannot even comprehend
Hmm.
moving into adoption. There's actually a few more mindsets you have to go through so that you can actually
Get
progress."
yourself. Yes, it's
And
all a
yeah,
process.
yeah,
Can
yeah,
you, so Jon, this is a perfect time then to let's talk about so these 7 mindsets that you just shared.
mm,
Let's talk about your book because you said it's in the
yeah,
book. I think you have
yeah,
so many incredible tools and different perspectives and ways to look at all of this, which is just I think refreshing,
yeah.
again, inspiring. That word just keeps coming to mind. But tell us about your book and
Mm.
where people can find it.
Yeah, yeah. So our website is infertilityman.com, and that will actually send you wherever you need to go because there's a YouTube channel, Instagram, and any information is on there, is accessible. It's just easier to say that
Yes.
instead of
And I
going
will
looking.
link that. That is in the show notes. Everybody, that is in the show
Good,
notes. So it'll be easy. It's just
good.
a click. You don't even have to type it into the
Yes,
URL box.
yes, yes. And our book is called The Man's Guide to Infertility. And the
Mhm.
reason why we called that is we found that actually wasn't many resources for
Mhm.
men. That's what I found when we were entering this tunnel. And well, I guess there were resources, but we kind of felt that they weren't helpful to us.
Okay.
So we kind of felt that the man's guide to infertility there wasn't much for men. So let's create something for a man who's experiencing infertility, so that they may be the reason why a certain couple or support team is actually in infertility, or they might be the support person for
Hmm.
their partner in their journey.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of information around relationships. Keep your relationships together. We mentioned it earlier on. If you don't have a relationship, I tell you what, throwing a baby into the equation or
Hmm.
IVF into the equation, it's even harder.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, it's challenging as it is when you're actually on the same page and taking those steps together.
Hmm.
Um, but the book it's available online. It's available as an ebook.
Hmm.
It's available as an audiobook. Um,
Are
and
you narrating? Are you narrating it with your
we
wonderful
have
accent?
used our stories. It's not a thank you for that.
I do. I love your accent. I love the Australian,
Well,
and I
thank you.
do.
Thank you. We haven't written this book for therapy.
Hmm.
We've found doctors there's doctors who have come on board to offer the clinical and their professional experience.
Mm-hmm.
We've interviewed 38
Wow.
men, other men
Great.
who
Amazing.
have offered their stories, and obviously
Wow.
then Laura and I have used our stories in the
Right.
book as lessons, as possible prompts for someone to actually take the next step.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in doing that, we're very proud of what's been created. And as a resource, we hope that it actually allows people to take that next step, and people who aren't involved in infertility but want to know more,
Mm-hmm.
they'll actually learn how to support people through this process. Because
Mm-hmm.
I tell you, in this journey, and it's not through being mean or any intent to harm, people say some really ordinary stuff,
Mm-hmm.
tough, challenging stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd like to think that knowing that up front, because infertility, I guess it's like kids. They grow up
Mm-hmm.
and then they become adults. So all these kids entertainers, they've actually got a revolving. They've got kids coming in one end and they go out the other end. They go, and it's like, I hate to say it, it's infertility.
Right.
There's more and more people these days. There's millions every year being diagnosed with infertility issues, and they're coming in and they're actually going out the other end, albeit with their
Mm-hmm.
own child, or they've been able to help another one through fostering or adopting, or they've looked at surrogacy. So in the end of it all, they actually end up out the other end.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of feel we wanted to create something that was timeless.
Mm-hmm.
The resources are there, the tools are there. What kept us relatively together? I tell you what, there's a lot of tape for us just keeping us together on this journey,
Yeah.
because it's hard. There's no question about it. It's the toughest thing I've ever seen, watching Laura go through it, because that again on her part is such a selfless gift to me. I
Mm-hmm.
could I could never
Mm-hmm.
I could never repay it
Mm-hmm.
in a million lifetimes. But she's stubborn. she, and she stuck. She stuck with me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm forever grateful for that. I think you'll feel our heart in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in answering your question, we read our parts of the book. We read our
Okay.
stories,
That's
yeah,
nice.
and we ended up finding some great narrators who do the male perspective and the female perspective through the book.
Wow.
Um,
I'm
and the
excited to
result
listen to it.
the result is, and yes, they are Aussie accents. So I think they sort of brought a bit of life to the book.
I was gonna
And
say I've never heard a book that's been narrated by multiple people, so I'm
yeah,
sure it keeps it
yeah,
nice and interesting and
yeah,
stimulating to your
yeah,
brain.
yeah, yes. And we ended up having to have two bites at the cherry, because we did do it ourselves the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and we just like the book, we just weren't happy with the end product.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to create something for the that's timeless, then we don't want to produce it second rate or third rate.
Yes.
We want to make something that's valuable, and that we're happy with. Because man,
Mm-hmm.
once it's out there, it's out there. Just like this online community, it's just like you have to be
Mm-hmm.
you have to be have a hide of steel, because I hate to say it, there is a lot of negativity that can come your way, and
Mm-hmm.
but in saying that, equally so, there's a lot of positivity and there's a lot of beauty in sharing,
Mm-hmm.
which has actually opened up the community all around the world. And
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing better than receiving it, even if it's a DM, or even
Yeah.
something that's more open, and just going, "Hey guys, we just appreciate you." And Laura and I will look at each other and go, "What have we done? Like,
Right.
what have we done?" Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we wrap this up, Jon, I just have to say this
Yes.
has been like one of the most inspiring interviews that I have done and guests that I've had. So I am so grateful to that you again are willing to share your story and have taken time to just be open and vulnerable and you say men are shitty at communicating, but you have done such a wonderful job. So just, I needed to acknowledge that and let you know. Um, and you just
Can
for
I
the,
say something, Nora?
yes.
It took work. It took work. Like,
Mhm.
I didn't come out like this. It is literally, it is literally every day. I have my daily routine. Laura calls it my bits, and that has changed how I do them with it, with obviously with a child, because I
Mhm.
was very routine focused, and literally routine goes out the window. So,
Yes.
my normal morning routine sometimes now becomes the last thing I do before bed, because there's stuff there's stuff that needs to be done. But
Right.
again, I don't make it wrong.
Mhm.
I just like, right, oh well, yes, I have to be present for Laura, I have to be present for Adeline, and then I can do these other bits. But I'm forever in my mind just going, right, these will get done, and
Mhm.
if they don't, that's okay. I will do
Mhm.
it tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah,
Your pivot.
I
It's your
try.
pivot.
Yes,
It's your pivot.
again, you just those stress relievers, because I don't want to be the cause of my stress. There is enough of it around us,
Right.
and if I can work out strategies to alleviate that stress, so I can actually be around for, obviously, Laura. Laura's the one doing the burden of treatment lies with her. I've literally had two procedures, and
Mhm.
like, you might as well. I'm like an old bull that just put me in the pasture now, mate. I'm done as far as medical procedures go.
Right.
I'm on HRT, and now my part in this journey is support,
Mhm.
is being around, being there, the tough information that we receive, the good times we receive. It's just, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It
and you
doesn't
need
stop.
to
My job changes. Yeah,
thank you for pointing that out. And I think along this journey as well, you have to be so resilient, which at the end of the day inevitably means that your EQ, your emotional intelligence is only going to grow as well.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
I mean, just from, the hour spending talking to you on the phone, on the phone, on Zoom here is,
yeah,
is you can see that. I mean, I don't know how you were before, but
yeah,
you
yeah.
come across as
It
very,
takes work. That's all I'm saying.
takes,
That's all I'm saying.
yes.
That's all I'm saying. And Laura accepting that that is something I need. I Laura accepting that I need to do that in my day,
Yes.
which maybe it's selfish. I don't know, but she knows that if I can do that, then she's got
Y-
me one
Yes.
hundred percent.
I don't think it's selfish. Listen,
It's not selfish. So
we
there is
all
not a
need to fill
selfish
up our
bone.
own cup.
There
Yes.
is literally not a selfish bone in her body, and it was definitely the wrong word. But if I'm able to get those bits done, as she calls it, it's our little
Yes.
joke. My meditation, my journal writing, and it mightn't make sense to her, but to me,
Mhm.
it's invaluable,
Yeah.
and that allows me to be there for Addie and
Hmm.
Laura, 100%
Hmm.
through the day, through the day. Yeah.
And so at the
Sorry,
end
you were
of
trying to
this,
wind this up.
no, that's okay. That's okay. I love it. So it's a perfect segue into the last thing that I want to share is that you are currently going through IVF again to try for baby number two, which is
Yes,
again
yes,
just mind blowing to so
yeah,
yeah, I guess, I mean, we're recording this now and this is probably going to come out, obviously not tomorrow, it's going to come out in maybe a
down the
month
line.
or two
Yeah,
from now,
yeah.
but yeah, you're so follow along. Anybody listening, I
Yeah,
know Jon and Laura are very open
yeah,
with sharing their
yeah.
story. You guys have Instagram. Is that the best, like if somebody wanted to follow along and
Instagram, yes, and we seem to find that that is the place where people are watching a lot of the videos too.
yes.
Although we've got quite a few subscribers on YouTube, and you'll
Okay.
find, and this can be all found through the infertilityman.com, right? They're
Okay.
all attached there. Um, the YouTube channel holds all the videos that we've
Hmm.
made and the interviews we've done and any of the
Hmm.
podcasts we've done.
Hmm.
For men out there, there's an invaluable resource in my interview with my doctor, Dr. Katz, and he's talking about the men's position or men's place in the infertility process. And if I can leave any guy with anything, go and get tested. When you're getting checked out, throw the semen analysis and blood analysis for your hormones into that equation and just find out early. If you know, knowledge is power. If you know that there's an issue, you can make changes to your lifestyle conditions, or there may be a physical issue. One of the tubes might be going to the wrong spot, which happens. And you may be able to have a small procedure, link them back up, and you go, ta-da, you've got sperm. Yeah. But if you actually know that, instead of treating it as a weakness, in the knowledge that you have, you go, right, I have a bit of an issue here. I can make some changes. These are all strength. These are all strength. Strength is making the decision that you can actually make a change. Yeah, you can have that ready for when you find that partner, because at the moment I feel a lot of men are actually, and wasting's probably the wrong word, they're actually wasting a woman's fertility because they're worried about the knowledge that they will find out that something is wrong. If I had to look back, I didn't really have the introspection or the insight to go, I wonder why I haven't had a pregnancy scare through my 20s or even early 30s. It's just not something you think of. And now I know why.
Right.
So maybe knowledge would have been power. You can't get anyone pregnant, Jon, naturally.
Right.
Maybe that would have changed my 20s and 30s. I don't know. But again, knowledge is power. And if I can just inspire any guys to just go, hey, you know what? Even if you're not thinking about kids, go and get the old boys tested and see if that's all right. If that's okay, then that's just a checklist down the line so that you can actually go, you know what? I can look for Miss Right, Mr. Right, whatever you're looking for. And yeah, that's a big I think. Don't wait.
I love that, because I always end my podcast with, if there is one tip, I mean, you've given so many, but the last one is always, what's one tip that you would give? And you said it, go and get tested, get your sperm analysis done, be proactive. And so I've, episode 29, I believe it's 29 of the podcast is top tips on how to improve sperm health on this podcast. So go check it out. I talk about my within North America, because again, I'm from Toronto, Canada, and my Canadian and US clients, I have a couple at-home sperm test kits that are available online that people can do in their own home, where they're more comfortable. They don't feel as vulnerable having to go into a clinic. So check out that podcast. You'll get more information on how to improve sperm health and how you can get tested. And I'll make sure also to find that Dr. Katz interview from YouTube and also add it into the show notes, because I think
I'll mention it to Laura. She's the whiz with regards to the back end, and obviously I feel that her and I are. And I tell you, without her, the book would have been 3 pages long, and and the website and the Facebook page or whatever would have been just a couple of comments.
Right. So we'll make sure that Laura gets that to me so that we can easily put it in those show notes for those to watch. Awesome. Definitely. Jon, thank you so much. I'm excited to continue to follow along and see what happens for baby number 2. And I'm wishing you both like all of the strength, all of the light, all of the love, all of the everything and anything that you need to get through this next phase. And thank you so much again for taking the time to be here with me today. Much appreciated.
I really appreciate you, Nora. Thank you very much.
Thank you.